So hopefully this video gets out before Halloween. I'm going to make it short and sweet. I'm going to make it short and sweet like a fun-sized candy bar because I really wanted to get this done mid-month. You know how my plans go. So we're going to be looking at the Halloween special, of which, mind you, this special comes out in a later arc, so there is going to be some spoilers. There were spoilers for me because, granted, I haven't read this far yet. This is after the girls have received new outfits and apparently new abilities. I'm just gonna come off and say I really didn't like this special. I thought I would. I was excited for it. It starts off strong, but it's terrible. Here we have some beautiful imagery, of course. Halloween, October, we've got these oranges. Lovely. The mystery. We have a narrator, and the text boxes are in black with some chilly looking font. We start off with a sentient pumpkin. Mind you, if you don't remember my Easter eggs video, there was plans to have a sentient pumpkin as kind of a mascot. This opening shot just totally sets the scene. Look at that cute cat and owl up there. So precious. So this Halloween, Will has turned to Haylin's clothing expertise for her costume. It's this really cool looking purple dress, and Haylin's quite clever painting a skeleton over a coat. Practical for the typical cold Halloween weather. I'm not sure where exactly this party is being held. It doesn't look like Sheffield Institute. Again, I could be wrong. Of course, Uriah and the gang are here causing trouble, thankfully not being maniacs. I have the odd suspicion, just thinking of it now, that one of Uriah's friends is supposed to be a Ninja Turtle. Ronnie's costume is actually adorable. It's pumpkin themed. Totally want to wear that. Irma's, I feel like, is just kind of lazy. It's again another blue dress, but this time with bunny ears. Anyways, Uriah's gang is just messing with them. Will actually makes use of her electrical powers and makes the lights go out temporarily so they can sneak away. And I just think it's creepy that when the lights go back up, the person dressed as Mickey is giving this really creepy look to the guy next to him. So almost the whole gang is here, sans Cornelia. We've got Peter, obviously dressed as Jack Sparrow, Martin, and Joel. Of course, in my videos, we haven't covered Joel yet, but he's going to pop up quite soon. They seem to be some kind of rip-off Incredibles. If we're able to represent Disney characters, and Pixar is Disney, I just don't understand why the eyes are upside down to be exclamation points. In the back, we've got two characters which come up in a later arc. I'm not going to discuss them right now in case it is too spoilery. Irma decides to tell a scary story, which is supposedly tradition. Now, here's where I really started to dislike this special. They thought they were being kind of cutesy by having Irma narrate the story, which is apparently actually happening with Cornelia trick-or-treating with Lillian, and Cornelia can hear Irma narrating, which is strange to me. Granted, I'm not sure what the abilities of their powers are at this point. Maybe she can hear her telepathically without her really trying at this point. I don't know, but I don't like it. Clearly, she's also a pirate, very reminiscent of Barbossa. So Irma narrates that Lillian is just playing constant tricks on people even though she's getting treats anyways, which results in Cornelia telling her to cut it out. Finally, they stop at one more house, which is this lady, who is too detailed to be a basic background character. Apparently hates Halloween and screams at them to go away. Lillian dashes off as Irma narrates it, again getting another quip from Cornelia, which is just so cheesy. And there's a random forest. Apparently, she doesn't know where they are, even though literally the street is right behind them. apparently the lady that screamed at them followed them and is witnessing this epic pumpkin tree. So this part actually got pretty cool, where Cornelia's face is just dropped in fear because she sees that the tree has a heart, and of course, being the guardian of Earth is totally weirded out by this. The tree starts to light up and a hand comes out. Of course, being a cheesy Halloween story being told by Irma, all of these monsters that come out of the tree start dancing. And a pumpkin prince approaches Cornelia and dances with them forever into the night, is what she says. Somehow, the boys are enthralled by this and they're leaning forward, and they wonder where Cornelia is, oddly enough, only to be surprised. Meanwhile, we cut back to Uriah, where he's cutting Irma's ears for calling him a name or something because he is so fragile. But unlike the first witch Halloween, these guys are small potatoes to what actually is the main thing here. Cornelia goes to return Lillian home. We cut to that lady from before, and she's wearing this twinkling outfit. And the narrator that had the black text boxes is calling her a fairy. She just creepily approaches the tree and, I want to say, injures it. She cracks something and it starts to just completely wilt. At this point, Will starts sensing something going on. They notice that the people around them have actually become monsters, which very much reminds me of Halloween Town 2, where everyone's masks became real. This even happens outside in the street. The girls transform, and we actually get some Halloween versions of their clothing. I kind of wish the stripes on the tights were also black, because that's just too much orange for me. I'm not going to comment too much on the outfits themselves because I want to save that for when it happens in the main story. Lillian is there to witness this, and I want to say that her size changes drastically throughout this special. I mean, look at her. She's like a little Tic Tac over there. Lillian, of course, swoons over this and calls her a witch, which I don't understand. I mean, clearly they look like fairies, but whatever. They go to attack one of the monsters, and it starts crying. So a pumpkin-headed fellow shows up with the black text box, so it seems like he's been narrating this whole time. And he explains that they have not been people that were turned into monsters. They are actually monsters that have crossed over from some kind of Halloween realm and can only do so on Halloween. Apparently, they used to live in Heatherfield, but were driven off to another dimension way, way back in the day, apparently. He calls himself the Prince of Halloween, and the fact that they travel over from a Halloween dimension makes me think of The Nightmare Before Christmas. Being the Prince of Halloween means that this could potentially be Jack and Sally's child. Also, there's a little error here with the moon coming over the pumpkin. That fairy woman has stolen the heart of the tree, which is preventing the Halloween creatures from returning to their realm. By the way, Mike Wazowski is here. The Halloween crew asks them for help in retrieving the heart of the tree. They debate whether or not they should help them because they are, in fact, monsters. Awkwardly, they use this opportunity to shoehorn in a whole "don't judge a book by its cover" message. The special gets even worse when they're saying that they have to look all over for the heart of this tree, and Irma simply says, "You should know where it is, Cornelia, because you were in the story I was telling," which is just complete BS. Will says, "You should know who hates Halloween." And of course, she's all of a sudden like, "You're right, I do know where it is." Of course, they're gonna go to that lady who randomly screamed about Halloween. It's just so rushed and weird. So all of a sudden, everyone starts flying. I love how Lillian is just so messed up about this. And love the Pumpkin Prince's jacket. They show up and start screaming on the lady's front lawn. Of course, she's gonna blast out with her floral-scented powers. Turns the creatures into humans. One of them looks suspiciously like Matt. Again, Lillian's size has changed, and she's now conveniently the size of a water bottle. Again, just because I don't know what's actually happened in the main plot at this point, I do notice, in fact, that their wings are different, and yes, that Tarani has just turned completely into fire. I was also completely floored when they started fighting with their arms and hair. It's just not okay. I mean, seriously, look. She tied Will's arms into bows, and Lillian has shrunk even more. However, I do like how Lillian is telling her to sweep her away. And she does so by pulling an Ultron. Hilariously, the fairy turns their clothes pink, which apparently all of them despise. Of course, except for Cornelia. The fairy stabs the Heart of Halloween, and supposedly by her stabbing the Heart of Halloween, people are forgetting all about Halloween and suddenly are just wondering why they're dressed in costumes. So the fairy's goal is apparently to make a world without fear, which I guess is a noble quest, but in reality, it's only because she's a complete chicken and a joke and a jack-in-the-box terrified her so much that she got weakened. Then Irma turns her hair into snakes, which I don't understand what this has to do with elemental abilities. Please don't spoil it. I'll get there when I get there. And then they go ahead and completely terrify her. This image will be burned into my memory for quite some time. Cornelia, of course, ever the competitive, challenges Will to make, surprisingly, not a scarier imagery. The fact that Will still looked like herself is scarier than what Cornelia looked like. Terrifying her shrinks her down to classical fairy size. And they just go ahead and burn her wand. And Irma basically flicks banks her. They return the heart to the tree, everyone cheers, and they go home. Of course, Pumpkin Prince asks how he can repay them, and creepily says to Cornelia that we can meet again someday, Cornelia, maybe in the darkness of a blind alley. No. Boringly, we cut back to Uriah and his gang talking about how they're going to be doing big crazy things, and somehow, I guess the favor they asked was to terrify Uriah's gang by making his cloak come alive and attack them. Though it is implied that Irma did this, so I have no clue. Then it shows the Oracle and Yan Lin like they orchestrated the whole thing for some odd reason, saying it's a joke, of course, aha, trick, or treat. So strange. I mean, it may just be this translation that I got, but for some reason Yan Lin is asking if there's consequences for the Guardians about knowing how much fear is worth. I don't get it. And that night the girls are stuck with different nightmares. Will with a bunch of frogs, which I don't get how that's a nightmare for her because she likes frogs. Irma stuck in class. Tarani over a bridge. And Halen being attacked by a flying monster. Horribly enough, Cornelia gets forced with a dream of being kissed by the Pumpkin Prince. Technically, he forced that kiss upon Cornelia. It's kind of twisted. And then it ends with Lillian being taken off by a monster. The special seems to have been rushed, is super cheesy, and just not cohesive. Let's talk about the costume Easter eggs. So this guy right here is clearly homage to the graphic novel series Bone, which I've never read, but I knew was pretty popular around my middle school years. That duck in the background seems very familiar. I can't think of what show of Disney's that it might have been from, but if you know, put it in the comments, please. Of course, there's a Robin Hood reference as well in this image. Again, another duck character. And we've got Goofy. This looks like Yoda, yet also Stitch. Of course, we've got the usual Friday the 13th tribute. This mouse very much reminded me of the mouse from The Great Mouse Detective. Again, there's a Scream. There's two Scream references in this image. Of course, we've also got traditional costumes like werewolves. There's definitely a couple Batmans hidden around. I mean, Uriah certainly seems to be an homage to Batman. To round out the end of this video, I just want to make a couple suggestions for witch costumes. I know Halloween is like 4 days away, but oh well, use this for next year. Etsy is a really good place to look for custom items. Of course, I've mentioned the Goldberry store where you can get various colors and sizes and crystal types of the Heart of Kandrakar, which is of course perfect for any witch cosplay. Again, any round orb can do for an OC. There are witch costumes pre-made by people on Etsy. But I do want to recommend the store Elven Forest. I actually got some of my clothing for my witch cosplay from them. For my cosplay that I did, I mean, I kind of took cheap fairy wings that had similar shape to the guardian wings and just kind of shoddily painted them. And I guess that's where I will end the Halloween video. Have fun, everyone.